It doesn't take much to become a monster. Sometimes it's an idea that doesn't belong, something that's just a little bit different. There's something people don't like about different. There's a long history of frenzied hunts for what doesn't belong. The Salem witch trials, the Satanic Panic, the Red Scare. We want a spotlight to expose monsters, but sometimes it creates them. This story begins with a mask, a doll, and the making of a monster. What survives of the Hasslerhoff videos are only fragments of a portfolio. Most of his online presence has been erased, scrubbed from the internet. The Facebook accounts, the Instagram pages, the TikTok collections. The videos and screenshots are from archives or re-uploads, scattered after the onward churn of sweeping bans, digital debris, the sort you sift through when the source itself has already vanished. A series of videos went viral on TikTok in early 2025. In the wake of Smart Schoolboy 9, the platform was buzzing. They wanted more of the same, an account that was bizarre and macabre. They wanted someone who would disturb, someone they could hate. With Hasslerhoff, they found it. The figure sways with long artificial hair and painted lips, but the body beneath is broad and heavy. Dirty coveralls hang over a masculine frame. The introduction felt theatrical, deliberate. It was like a character stepping out from behind the stage curtain into the limelight. It's a costume that betrays itself the longer you look. The cheap parody of femininity isn't meant for laughs. It's meant to unsettle. It's like the mask doesn't fit, and it wants you to notice. The performance is strange because it never fully sells the illusion. It announces the performance as a sham, almost like Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The mask doesn't hide the man underneath. He's not concealed, but he is transformed. A grotesque attempt at becoming something else. All the more disturbing because it doesn't work. It simply becomes the only version of him we're allowed to see. The horror sets in because the mask isn't there to convince you. It's a way for the man inside to speak, to act in ways he wouldn't otherwise. What makes it so unsettling isn't the illusion. It's the intentional failure of the illusion. It's the space between the two, the plastic face we're meant to see, and the human face we can't. The unease of these performances comes from the uncanny, an incongruity between expectation and reality, the slightest difference that is enough to change everything. This is a thread that will run throughout this story, the sense that whatever you think you know, you don't. Already, the mask was beginning to change. The first video felt closer to Shaye St. John, a bizarre and absurd character with an emphasis on the unsettling. But here, the performance edged towards something darker, something more like Buffalo Bill, a figure rehearsing what it could not become, pantomiming through violence and imitation. The caption that surfaced only clarified things further.
POV, I'm trying to mimic your screams in an attempt to become a more believable woman.
Practicing femininity through an imitation of pain. Then the mask spoke. It came as a feigned falsetto, straining beneath the painted mask. But the words didn't belong to the female character being played. It isn't the mask or the character speaking. It's the man beneath.
Hey Stacy, am I a heart yet? Am I an 8 out of 10 yet? Would you me, Stacy? Would you lick every on my body, Stacy? Don't hurt my feelings, Stacy. Stop leaving me on scene, Stacy. Stop swiping left on me on Tinder, Stacy. Don't be such a bitch, Stacy.
What begins to slip through is the language of a subculture that thrives on rejection, a frustration so deep it curdles into misogyny, then hides in a performance. Stacy is an incel archetype, the attractive, popular woman who always belongs to someone else, a step up from the average Becky. It's a taxonomy of resentment, a way of breaking people down, flattening them into a singular function. And this was only the beginning.
Honey, I'm home. Oh, there you are, as per usual. Oh, you're so cute, just sitting there. Oh, are you up? Are you ready? You ready to be nice and fertile for Mama Bear? I could smell some sweet aroma coming from your... Oh, baby. I think you are... Here, let me get a little sample. Nice. And nice.
It was one of the longest, most developed performances. In a grotesque parody of intimacy, Hassler treats the viewer as though they are someone in captivity. A measured falsetto with a focus on fertility, the probing of intrusive hands. Here, the caricature of a serial killer feels absurd and overly transgressive. But sometimes, the mask wasn't enough to hide the man beneath.
I could say 100%, every single negative aspect of my life, women are entirely to blame for.
There's nothing theatrical here, no falsetto or performance. It's just the man beneath the mask speaking plainly. The earlier clips toyed with parody, with character and theater. But here, we have a moment where the disguise is peeled away and naked resentment is exposed. There are likely more videos from this period that have been lost to time. TikTok is a platform that provides the perfect lack of context to frenzy an audience, which only served to amplify the algorithm, serving the videos to thousands. Then, commentary accounts began to archive his work and provide their own speculation. He was a criminal. He was a serial killer. What unsettles the most wasn't the mask or the performance. It was the idea that these videos were a kind of camouflage, a way of hiding in plain sight. The bans followed shortly after, chasing him off TikTok and Instagram. But that wouldn't be the end. It wasn't even the beginning. There had already been the death threats, machete attacks, federal investigations, and more. The story didn't start here. It started much earlier, with another mask. What survives from this earlier series feels like less of a finished character and more like a prototype. The first sketches of something that would evolve. Yet these early attempts are disturbing in their own way. They show us the man behind the mask before he understood his performance. The artifice was thinner, but there's still the haunting imagery. Scenes that feel uncanny precisely because they seem so ordinary. There is no falsetto, no theatrical flourish, no performance straining to hold itself together. Stripped of that artifice, what remains is unsettlingly simple, a man who cannot help but provoke an audience into looking. This introduction echoes the one that would come years later, the same entrance, the same lingering presence. It feels like a rehearsal, a first draft of the performance that would come, as though even here, the man behind the mask was only trying to do one thing, to step into view, to be noticed. The videos from this period appear similar in theme, but there's one distinction. In this series, the man behind the mask wouldn't be alone.
I love you, Shannon. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
The voice coos in a babyish register, repeating the same phrase again and again. It's not intimacy, it's the simulation of intimacy. The doll is a simulacrum of a partner, sealed plastic as flesh, arranged into the rough outline of a woman. Together, they form a performance of closeness, but one that is flat, hollow. It's someone trying to approximate what intimacy looks like, not because it's there, but because it's missing. It's the absence of emotion that is disturbing, a rehearsal of love that echoes something familiar. Psychologists sometimes describe a level of dissociation within troubled minds, ones that act out gestures of normalcy, trying on love or friendship or family, the way another person might try on a jacket. The rituals to simulate the ordinary continued. A couch, a partner, a song playing from when the world was simpler. But even here, nothing is ordinary. Nothing is real. The depiction of the mundane is disturbing. The mask fixed with an empty smile, absent at the eyes. The fake face of a lifeless partner. A doll for defiling, instead recast as a domestic partner. Sharing an old shirt and an older song. It's a domestic costume. One man with an object as though they are coupled. The stillness gives it away. There's no breath, no weight shifting. The nostalgia of an older song almost attempting to pour history and memory into the plastic. A staged snapshot of a life that won't materialize. It's a compensatory performance, not enacting a feeling, but instead fitting the shape of a feeling. Not the thing itself, the mask of a thing. In German, the word for uncanny is unheimlich, the unhomely. This is a home made strange by something that should not be there. A living room that has become a diorama, a still life of borrowed tenderness, an assembly of props. But this ritual fails too, and so the performance has to change. The ritual of intimacy, the ritual of domestication, and now, the ritual of desecration. The doll has been dismantled. For over 2 full minutes, the mask performs with the head, but it feels like a violation, even within the logic of the mask. The doll was once posed as a partner, then as a domestic companion. Here, even that pretense is dismantled. The head is stripped away, finally treated as an object that can be broken apart. The performance has become a spectacle of destruction. and it tells us something different about the mask. That the ritual, the performance, was never really about intimacy at all. It was a compulsion to escalate, to see how far the performance could go and still demand an audience. The truth is that for most people, the home is where the performance ends, a place where the masks come off. But here, the home itself is a stage. It's as though there is no authentic self. Take off one mask, and there's just another underneath. The different iterations of domesticity and destruction all pressed into service, arranged to create a performance no one asked to see. If you've staged your home, if you're simulating a normal life, how would you know when the performance is over? How could you tell the difference between the act and the actor? These videos, masquerading as a serial killer, it did lead to certain questions, like who would want to act out this sort of fantasy? Who would want this sort of attention? But these were questions the mask couldn't answer, but the man behind it could. The masks smooth away the man beneath, erasing his expression, his identity. It made projection easy. The audiences across social media saw what they wanted to see. They projected onto him everything they feared, everything they despised, everything they wanted to destroy. But there was a man beneath the masks. It might not have been apparent who he was in these videos, but there were more accounts that he left behind. His Facebooks, his forums, they offered something the videos never did, a glimpse at the man beneath the mask. The username Hasslerhoff6969 surfaced on Reddit, where it was connected to Kevin Handler. In fact, there were over a dozen Facebook accounts under different pseudonyms, all connected to the masked man. However, the Kevin Handler account appeared elsewhere. Archived posts and photographs of the same doll appeared on this account. This same image was also posted on Reddit under sᴜᴘᴘᴏᴛ. The profile belonged to Wayne and Shannon. Shannon, the same name that was chanted in a baby voice earlier during the confession of love. The connection wasn't subtle. The same doll, the same name, carried across multiple platforms, and it didn't stop there. The dozens of accounts that could be connected back to the man in the mask will be explored later in this video, but for now, the best place to begin is a smaller forum, one that shares much of the language we heard earlier, a site called Looksmax. At first glance, it looks like any other forum. Threads about fitness, skincare, fashion, but there's something just below the surface that is very different, a vocabulary devoted entirely to physical appearances. There is an elaborate granularity to the vanity here. Members obsess over millimeters of bone structure, swirls of cowlick, or skin blemishes. They have their own shorthand, HTN for high-tier normie, LTN for low-tier normie. And buried inside these thousands of posts, one handle appears frequently: Punished Doll Cell. This is the man behind the mask. The account was created in June 2022, the same window when sᴜᴘᴘᴏᴛ surfaced. Side by side, the personas overlap. Over 2 years, he would publish more than 1,000 comments across the Looksmax forum. The threads span from casual ratings to personal confessions, but the tone rarely shifts. It is always fatalistic. He writes that average and ugly men fall into the same category, that women find 80 to 90% of all men hideous. It's a digital landscape where even the word average becomes synonymous with failure. The grotesque and the mundane collapse into one unbroken belief that nothing matters except the accident of the looks you were born with. Some posts highlight his surgical obsession, a desire for limb lengthening and rhinoplasty. Some highlight physical insecurities related to baldness or acne scarring. Some highlight poverty as a personal failing. There's a clear fixation on imperfection, on insecurity. There's an underlying belief that if perfection isn't possible, then neither is connection. These contradictions between longing for connection and repulsing for attention, this is what feels most revealing. It's the place where the lines between internet persona and personal reality blur, where the doll itself becomes something more than just a prop. Across 23 pages of posts, the same patterns of fatalism, body horror, rejection, and rage appear. Faith that worth itself is genetic, that failure is inevitable, and that connection is impossible. It was a complete cosmology of despair, spelled out in pieces over 2 years of life. Of course, it's never clear where irony ends and sincerity begins. Forums like Looksmax thrive on a kind of doublespeak, half performance and half confession. In many cases, posts could be read as ironic humor or honest admissions. Oftentimes, it may be both. Uncertainty is part of what makes the archive so unsettling. It can never really be known when Hassler is slipping into something real. These same sentiments surfaced elsewhere in the digital catalog, the Reddit profile for Wayne and Shannon, across scattered subreddits like Dating Advice, Venting, and True Off My Chest. His comments carried the same fatalism and resentment, but there are moments of clarity.
I'm tired of lying seldom and not even being able to talk about it. For 10 years now I've been facing constant rejection from women over my physical appearance. I'm 25 now and still have never had a girlfriend. To top it all off, I face constant ostracization from people whenever I try talking or venting about it, because whenever you mention this topic they always assume it has everything to do with personality or attitude. As if I was like this when I first tried dating years back. I've legitimately had many different women tell me that the reason for their rejection was something to do with my looks. Now I'm at a point where I've been permanently banned off every major social media platform. I feel as if society is just backing me into a corner and choking the life out of me. All for things I never had any control over.
Even within this thread, the majority of the top responses are dismissive, accusatory, or derogatory. Many repeated that it was about his personality, not his appearance. It's unsettling to note that with the mask or without it, his posts are met by a crowd eager to project a caricature back onto him. Even without the performance, even with this confession of someone who's despairing, these users are anxious to project onto him. Their responses are archetypical. They range from moral panic to bootstrapping prescriptions to simple delegitimization. What makes the thread unsettling isn't just what he wrote. It's how quickly these people move to collapse it into something that was easy for them to understand. In the replies, he referred to a picture he posted moments earlier on another subreddit. Within that thread, there are more revealing replies. A man and a mannequin. The most ordinary kind of loneliness, rendered strange by the object that fills it. This is what unsettles me the most. Not the mask or the doll. It's a man who seems more abandoned than monstrous. Someone who shared a genuine description of his loneliness and isolation. It's almost as though they need him to be a monster, no matter what he showed them. Over the next day, there are a flurry of responses to commenters on his post. Then another, this time on the ugly subreddit.
I bought a sex doll to combat my loneliness. I'm turning 26 in a few months and still have never been in a relationship before due to my looks. I've tried going on every dating app, meeting someone through social circles, going to church, visiting local bars, at work, etc. All with absolutely zero results. Women refuse to have anything to do with me due to my appearance. so I made a compromise and decided to buy a life-sized love doll. Not just for the sex, but also as a means of having some semblance of company. It's helped to a degree, and I'd recommend that anyone else who struggles date-wise due to their look should save up for one as well, if they can keep up with the maintenance.
This post isn't framed as provocation. There's no exaggerated language or ironic edge. It's a plain account of loneliness and the compromises that it's forced him to make. It's a reflection of isolation and despair, but still, the thread fractures into the same predictable advice and pathologizing. The account continues to post for another few weeks, responding to others in these threads and posting elsewhere. Some replies are antagonistic, but others reveal the mask slipping in quieter ways.
I don't have any IRL friends anymore. They've all moved on with their lives, and I can't even relate to this one friend group I was introduced to because they're all into drinking and smoking weed. I've been sober all my life.
There are hundreds of posts that document how he came to his position. He has described the slights, the dismissals, the patterns that have been reinforced. There's a feedback loop at work here. Rejection breeding bitterness, bitterness breeding rejection. These epistemic traps are inescapable. We are all looking at a reflection of the world bent back on itself, distorted through repetition and feedback. We filter our experience through what we already believe. For Hassler, every rejection, every silence, every loss confirms the story he's already telling himself. These posts point to the same question. How do you ever know if you're describing the world as it is, or only the world as it has taught you to see? The archives of Facebook accounts might suggest a more revealing set of truths. A real name, a real face, a platform for posting to those who know you in the real world. But even here, there are more masks, because none of the archived Facebook posts are from his original account. These are burners spun up after bans, a fragment meant to replace what has already been erased. In fact, Facebook is where Hassler began rage baiting with incendiary posts. Before the videos, he stuck to inflammatory memes and comments, sparking rage from others. One commonly referenced is this Facebook post. The image is of Bianca Devins, a teenager whose murder and decapitation in 2019 became a viral spectacle online. Her killer, Brandon Clark, posted graphic images of her body across Discord, Instagram, and Twitter, taunting those that followed her. These posts sit side by side with posts like this one.
Over a decade of my life has been completely wasted being rejected, insulted, and humiliated by women over things I never had control over, such as my face and height. I had a steady job, attended church, social circles, went on every dating app, etc. All to no avail. I'm tired of the bitterness and resentment I feel, and I just want to be able to move on with my life as this shit has been eating me alive for so long. So I've essentially given up dating and compromised by buying a life-sized sex/love doll. It's the closest I'll ever get to experiencing the touch of a woman, and at this point I'm coming to terms with that. At least until I can get the cosmetic procedures I want done. Then maybe I could finally be considered as a human being by them.
This is the difficulty of the mask. You never know whether what's underneath is confession or cruelty. One post might invite sympathy, the next might shut it down completely. It's almost like the performance itself is that of Andy Kaufman, the act of always pretending to be serious even when you aren't, a persona that never resolves, a performance of someone always coming undone, an audience caught between laughter and disgust, where no one knows if they're in on the joke. It's hard to imagine how you might continue this performance without losing yourself to the act. That's the paradox of the mask. It hides the man, but it traps him too, forcing him to become the thing he pretends to be until the performance consumes whatever might have been left underneath. The posts continue on Facebook, even now under some variation of the original pseudonym, The cycle continues into perpetuity. New accounts, new bans, new posts. But there is one final corner of the internet that still needs to be explored. On July 14th, 2022, just a month after his Reddit and Looksmax accounts were created, a thread was posted on a forum devoted to cataloging information about unusual internet figures, a place where digital footprints are collected, archived, and mocked. A portfolio of his most offensive and bizarre content was gathered and reframed. He was labeled a lol cow, a person considered so eccentric that their behavior is mined for ridicule, or, depending on the audience, he was a horror cow, a figure unsettling enough that the fascination comes from mockery and disgust. The purpose of this thread was to spectate and to laugh. Private personal information was shared. His name, his address. That material will not be included here, but it's mentioned because this is when Hassler stopped being the author of his own performance. Within this information dump, there was an article that strangely had been published the same day as this post, only 2 years prior. It was a local headline describing a man wielding a machete, chasing over a dozen juveniles through a forest preserve. No one was harmed, and when police made the arrest, the man admitted he had chased one juvenile after being insulted. He also admitted to smashing a cell phone that had been left behind on a picnic table. He was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and criminal damage to property. The man charged was the man behind the mask. Once the story began to circulate online with its attachment to Hassler, others offered context on Reddit.
To be fair, I know the dude. Those kids relentlessly filmed him and fucked with him in the neighborhood. He isn't one to speak up on it, so it just pushed him to the point of doing the cheap thing to scare them. Not saying it was right or wrong, but kids are little assholes, and maybe sometimes they deserve a big scary info in a ski mask chasing after them for a scare.
Strangely, Hassler himself found the thread where his personal information was dumped, and he began responding directly to commenters. He offered more context for the machete incident.
I charged at them because one followed and threatened me. I didn't want the pieces of shit to know where I lived, so I made them leave the park before going home. I was taking care of my disabled mom at the time and already had a sense they were the type of people to throw bricks through your window. Just cause they were Zoomers doesn't excuse them of the shit they were doing. I didn't call the cops because they did. Plus, unless you have the motherfuckers on video, there's not much that can be done. It was 15 of their words against mine. Of course, they'd tell each other to say the same horseshit before the cops arrived, to say I came out of the forest like Shaye St where he's swinging my machete like a maniac. Even if there's an investigation, rarely anything will ever come of it. Thank God for my mom though. Thanks to her, I didn't spend a night in jail or even have my mugshot taken. She explained to them our situation, how I took care of her. They managed to classify it all as a misdemeanor.
For pages, users on the forum attacked him for mocking Bianca Devins, for posting misogynistic memes, and more, while a select few asked questions designed for a better understanding.
Despite being diagnosed with body dysmorphia, it's still hard to decipher what is reality and what's not with my appearance. I've been to numerous therapists, psychiatrists, and counselors. None of it ever helped, so I don't even bother anymore. My mom died last year. I have no IRL friends. At this point, I don't see myself living past 30, so I can hardly give a shit anymore about my mental issues. My anger issues are practically gone now though, but that's probably more a result of depression than genuine improvement.
Then, a user posts a screenshot of his home from Google Street View.
I don't give a shit if you send things to my house as a joke or whatever. I just prefer you sick don't swat me, as having my neighbors and family potentially killed over a sex doll is exceedingly deranged. I myself don't care if they fill my chest with lead. Just don't want anyone innocent to be murdered over what I post online.
One user comments that this strange online performance will now be linked to him forever, and he responds fatalistically.
I'm going X before I turn 30 regardless. I legitimately don't care anymore. If you want to take any chances of employment for me to speed up the process, then I welcome it if anything.
What feels so different in these posts is that he is no longer on his own stage. These replies come from inside an archive created about him, surrounded by ridicule, his real-life information exposed with mockery and threats. Yet his replies aren't solely defensive or antagonistic. There is real vulnerability in a thread that is built to exploit it. Bizarrely, it's this thread that emphasizes his humanity. A son caring for his disabled mother, a man teased and antagonized by high schoolers, resulting in criminal charges. A man who says he doesn't have any real-life friends, who lost his mother, and who doesn't care to live past 30. The pain and exhaustion are the truest sentiments captured yet. The others, the memes and misogyny, the haunting videos, they could be read as deliberate and performative. It was what he decided to show, how he decided to frame it. In a conversation dedicated to dissect his performance, the man behind the mask comes clearest into view. After tracing the history backwards through videos, aliases, and masks, what remains in the present looks very different. With many of the accounts banned, Hassler now exists online as a digital nomad, spinning up new accounts, shedding and regaining followers. It's a digital record that's reset almost monthly. In the aftermath, an archive post revealed a GoFundMe. In more recent archives, reveal a new GoFundMe, requesting support for groceries and basic necessities. In the archived posts after his bans, there are solicitations on Cash App, where some followers respond seriously, forwarding small sums of cash. Others feign support and send requests for him to pay them. Again, a mixed bag of ridicule and indulgence. For years, the mask and the man were defined by rejection. Every post circled back to loneliness and isolation. But after the irony of the masked performances, the posts about misogyny and inceldom, in the aftermath it has led to at least some connections with women. And more, there was confirmation from Hassler himself.
I've unironically gotten more positive female attention from schizo posting and being misogynistic online than I ever have LARPing as a normie IRL. Some of the time I feel as if I solved my inceldom through a monkey's paw wish. IRL nothing's changed, and the overwhelming majority of women want nothing to do with me due to my looks, yet online I can attract women from all over the world via the crumb of clout I've gained acting unhinged online.
But there was a caveat. The attention wasn't for him. Not really. It was for the persona, the mask. The women who pursued him online, they were pursuing the performance of hostility and misogyny. The mask had delivered what the man could not, but that meant even in the company he might have wanted, it was only ever really the mask. Intimacy through a persona is only ever proximity. The same mask that doomed him also gave him the only glimpses of what he claimed to want most. A paradox he seemed to understand, but could never escape. Over the span of 3 or 4 years, he built a reputation. The doll, the memes, the mask itself, each post shocking, each performance designed to unsettle, defying the audience to decide whether the act was confession or cruelty. With time, the performance hardened into a reputation, and then a prison. Niche followers wearing masks of their own with anonymous handles and irony-laden replies. The audience no longer wonders what's underneath. They've already decided. Those who follow him know him as a black-pilled meme poster. Those who don't follow him believe he's a serial killer or someone LARPing is one. Anything else is met with indifference at best or ridicule at worst. The confession only ever drew hatred anyway. Now, It's a new performance, authored by anyone but the performer, and it continues still, under the churn of new shell accounts, as Hassler tries to outrun obscurity. The only way to know what's beneath the mask now would be to speak to the performer himself.
All right, so it happened very fast too, by the way. So I went from like posting right-wing shit and occasionally sad posting about, you know, my love life, well, non-existent love life. And then I started like incel posting, like, you know, practically fully, like just going full on like incel mode. And in regards to like the mask and doll shit, like all that happened in 2022. So what happened was, I mean, I had $8,000 in my bank account at the time, and I was like, I was feeling completely hopeless, because months prior, my mom died in November 28th, 2021, she died. So, you know, it was like a really bad time in my life for that reason. And, you know, without her to like reassure me and talk to me, like I had nobody in real life to talk to about any of this shit. So what happened was, I was like fast forward like months later, like into March. Yeah, March. I was like, you know what? I have like $8,000 in my fucking bank account. I was like, you know what? I'll just piss away like 2,000 of it on a life-size sex doll. And then I started like posting memes on Facebook where I was like, and this was on my Chad Charmy account. So I was saying shit like, you know what? I'm just going to get a sex doll. Fuck it. And then everybody was like, oh, he's full of shit. He's trolling. There's no way he's getting one. And then, you know, the day came, like the day that the doll arrived at my house, and it's like some weird, it was so surreal, because the sex doll arrived at my house on a fucking Easter Sunday, and I was literally at church. I was at church, and the pastor was giving his Easter sermon, and I got the fucking notification on my phone that it actually arrived at my house. So I got home, and I took a photo of me with the sex on. I made a post on Facebook where I was like, okay guys, you got me, you know, I'm full of shit. It was just trolling. It was all a big goof, you know, he called it. And then in the comments, I posted the photo of Shannon and I in bed together, and I'm like, psych. And that got quite a lot of engagement. Like the comment alone got well over 100 reacts, like the comment itself. So it like, I would say that account, like I got quite a lot of traction on that one, you know, because yeah, no shit, like people see a dude posting with the sex doll, it's, you know, it's gonna garner some attention.
Yeah,
because if I saw some asshole posting the same shit, you know, I'd be a little interested too. So so then, like, in regards to the mask stuff, like several months later, after my Chad Charmy account got banned, and what happened was, when I was like shit posting with Shannon, it was the Chad Charmy account, but then this girl who I knew, you know, from this Facebook shit posting community that I'm in, she actually helped me out. She created a Shannon account, and I told her, like, try to like make posts in a way that makes it sound like you're Southern, just to like add to, like, you know, to make it funny.
Sure.
So she would post on the Shannon account, and then I would have access to it. You know, I would have access to it too, so I would post on it as well. So I had like those two accounts running simultaneously, where it was like the fucking Chad Charming account, and then the Shannon Maloney account where I'm literally LARPing as the sex doll. And obviously, you know, those got banned, both of them taken down simultaneously, because I had been IP banned since my main went down. So then on my Kevin Handler account, that's when I started doing the mask shit.
Sure.
You know, and the also like the main, like my main mindset when it came to that was basically, it was like, okay, so I was so used to women calling me creepy for basically, you know, for shit that I had no control over. Because, you know, like that whole meme of, oh, it's only harassment if you're ugly. You know, shit like that, right. Where, you know, you say hi to a girl and you're not that attractive, like you'll be labeled as a creep. That's basically, that was my mindset. I was like, well, if I'm going to be called creepy for shit that I have no control over, then I might as well give them a valid reason to call me creepy. That was the main mindset behind me doing the mask shit.